Hi guys, this is Vysh from Vysh and we are going to continue the R.S. Sharma series. So next is chapter 17, which is about South Indian kingdoms. Okay, so it is the Chola, Cheras, Pandyas and all, which we UPSC it's like favorite topic for them. They keep asking at least one question every year from this particular topic. Okay, so Chola, Cheras and all will come later also, but this is the ancient part of them. Okay, the first century, second century, or the Sangam age, you can tell that is the time when they appeared first. Okay, so we'll see about them in this particular chapter. Test series is already launched. Please see the description below for the details about it. Okay, now the chapter number 17, this is the dawn of history in the deep south. Okay, so the megalithic background, that is how they begin this textbook. Okay, the several elements mark the beginning of the historical period. There are settlements of large scale rural communities which carry on plough agriculture with the help of iron implements, formation of the state system, rise of social classes, use of writing, beginning of written literatures. Okay, so agriculture, written literature, state system, all these things were there in South India at that time. They are just beginning that way. All these phenomenon are not found at the tip of the peninsula, with the Kaveri Delta as the nuclear zone till about the 2nd century BC. Okay, so till 2nd century BC they are telling nothing of such sort existed, but after 2nd century BC, that is the Sangam age, you can tell. Sangam age is between 2 BC and 2 AD, you can tell. That is the time of Sangam age. Up to this period, the upland portion of the peninsula were inhabited by people who were called megalith builders. Okay, initially it was called megalith builders there. They are known not for their actual settlements which are there, but for their graves. Okay, so the megalithic graves I have already taught you in class 6th NCERT. Okay, where the body will be there in the center, and then circular big stones will be there around it, and that is how megalith graves are very important in art and architecture of that time. So these graves are called megaliths because they are encircled with big pieces of stones. They contain not only skeletons of people who are buried, but also pottery and iron objects. The people used to leave various kinds of pottery and other black red ware. Okay, popular at that time. Obviously, the practice of burying goods in the graves of the dead bodies were based on the belief that dead would need all of them in the next world. So they thought like that the people, there is a next life, next world, afterlife, and then they will need things. That is why along with the dead bodies all these pottery and things were left. Okay, these goods gave us an idea of their source of livelihood. We find arrowheads, spearheads, and even hoes and sickles all made of iron. Okay, so iron implements are very much important. Tridents, okay, the Trishul kind of thing, okay, later associated with Shiva, have also been found in the megaliths. However, compared to the number of agricultural tools that were buried, those meant for fighting and hunting are large in number. This would show that megalithic people did not practice an advanced type of agriculture. Okay, so more things were not agricultural tools, but it was warfare kind of tool. Okay, so it's like they did not practice proper agriculture. The megaliths are found in all upland areas of the peninsula, but their concentration seems to be in eastern Andhra, that is near the coast. Okay, eastern Andhra and in Tamil Nadu. Their beginnings can be traced to 1000 BC, but in many cases the megalithic phase lasted from about the 5th to the 1st century BC. Okay, even 1000 BC there are traces of it, but 5th to 1st BC is the time when more things are recovered. In a few places this phase persisted even up to the early centuries of the Christ era. Okay, the Cholas, Pandyas and Cheras mentioned in Ashokan inscriptions were probably in the megalithic phase of material culture. Okay, so you should know that. Okay, megalithic phase of material culture, these three kingdoms were there, and it was mentioned in Ashoka's inscriptions. The megalithic people in the southern districts of Tamil Nadu had certain peculiar characteristics. They buried the skeletons of the dead in urns made of red pottery in pits. Okay, in many cases these urns were not surrounded by stone circles, and grave goods were not too many. Okay, so they had a different kind of burial they are telling. Okay, in urns, and that is made of red pottery. The practice of urn burial was different from that of cist burial or pit burial surrounded by stone circles, which practice prevailed in the Krishna Godavari valley. So they are telling above that Deccan region, Krishna Godavari, they had this pit burial or whatever, but it was different in the south, in the Tamil Nadu region and all, where it was urn burial in red pottery. Okay, but in any case, in spite of the use of iron, the megalithic people depended partly for settlement and burials on the slopes of the hills. Okay, so they were like in the slopes of the hills, not on the plains. Although the megalithic people produced paddy and ragi, apparently the area of cultivable land area used by them were very limited, and generally they did not settle on the plains or the lowlands. Okay, not settled in the plains or lowland, but mostly in the hilly areas. By the beginning of the Christian era, that is the AD time, or probably a little later, these people moved from the uplands into the fertile river basins. Okay, this is actually the megalithic thing which I told. Center of the body will be there, and then stone circles will be there. So big stone structures will be there in a circular form. Megalithic burial. Okay, so they reclaimed marshy deltaic areas. Under the stimulus of contact with the elements of material culture brought under the north to the extreme end of the peninsula by traders, conquerors, and Jaina and Buddhist missionaries, they came to practice wet paddy cultivation. Okay, so influence of many others. Okay, from North India, the traders, the conquerors, the Jainist, Buddhist monks, all these things influenced them to practice wet paddy cultivation, founded numerous villages and towns, and came to have social classes. Okay, so they framed or they became evolved into a society because of the influence from outside people. All these created conditions for the rise of state systems in the deep south, whose history from the 1st century AD can be constructed on the basis of written records supplemented by the Greek and Roman accounts and by archaeology. Okay, so two sources, one is archaeology and another is the written records from Greek and Roman. That is how we come to know about the kingdoms. So three early kingdoms we will see: Chola, Pandya, and Chera. The southern end of the Indian peninsula, situated south of the Krishna river, were divided into three kingdoms. The Pandyas was first mentioned by Megasthenes. Again, an important statement, UPSC will pick it up. Okay, Megasthenes is the one who first mentioned about the Pandya kingdom. Okay, who says that the kingdom was celebrated for pearls. Okay, he also speaks of it being ruled by a woman and states that 7-year-old mother were found in the Pandya country. What does it mean? There was child marriage kind of thing. Okay, 7-year-old mother might be exaggerated. All this sounds exaggerated, but suggests that the Pandya society was matriarchal. Okay, so they are telling because there is a woman ruler and there is a 7-year-old mother. So they are concluding two things. It might be matriarchal and also it will be like child marriage was there. The Cholas, the Pandyas, and the Cheras, all the three are mentioned in the inscriptions of Ashoka. I have already told you. In the 3rd century BC, but it is clear that their territories lay outside the Mauryan Empire in modern Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So it was not under the Mauryan Empire, but Ashoka has mentioned about it in the inscriptions. The Pandya territory occupied the southernmost of the southeastern portion of the Indian peninsula, and it's like near Madurai. Okay, Madurai was their capital. So it is the southernmost, and then included in the modern district of Tirunelveli, Ramnad, Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Madurai is actually what? It is the Tamil version word of the Mathura. Mathura we have in North India, so they named it Madurai, similar name. Okay, the literature compiled in the Tamil academies in the early centuries of the Christian era and are called the Sangam Literature. Okay, it refers to Pandya rulers, but it does not give any connected account. One or two Pandya conquerors are mentioned. However, it is evident from the literature that the country was wealthy and prosperous. So it's known for pearls. Megasthenes mentioned first about it, then it has this literature mentioned about it. So these kind of things, just keywords you need to know. However, it is evident from the literature that the country was wealthy and prosperous. The Pandya kings profited from trade with the Roman Empire and sent embassies to the Roman Emperor Augustus. The Brahmanas enjoyed considerable influence, and the Pandya kings performed Vedic sacrifices in early centuries of the Christian era. So whatever happens, whichever kingdom comes, this Brahmanas and their sacrifices and collecting fees and all the stupidity used to continue in all the kingdoms. Okay, the Chola kingdom was called Chola Mandalam or Coromandel. Now we know, right? Coromandel Coast. The name is derived from the Chola Mandalam, that is from the Chola kingdom. It was situated to the northeast of the territory of the Pandyas. Okay, a little bit north of Pandyas. Between the Pennar and Velur rivers. Okay, remember this. Pennar and Velur rivers are there. Pennar river, you should know, it is right below the Krishna river. So Pennar river and Velur river, in between that Chola kingdom was there. And we have some idea of the political history of the Cholas, whose chief center of political power lay at Urayur. Urayur has been a UPSC question, so you should know Urayur is a famous place for cotton trade under the Chola kingdom. It seems that in the middle of the 2nd century BC, a Chola king named Elara conquered Sri Lanka and ruled over it for nearly 50 years. Okay, so Elara ruled Sri Lanka for 50 years. He is a Chola king. One more ruler is there, Karikala. Okay, very famous king. He founded the Puhar. Okay, Puhar is same like Kaveri Pattanam. Okay, here we will see identical with Kaveri Pattanam. Puhar, Kaveri Pattanam, Urayur. Then Elar is the king, Karikala is the king. Such important keywords alone, if you remember, that is more than enough. Okay, in my MCQs anyway, such things will be covered, so try to get it. This was built with the labor of 12,000 slaves. Which one? This Puhar. Okay, Puhar and Kaveri Pattanam by Karikala was built by these many slaves, and it was a Chola capital. Okay, at a point of time, it was a great center of trade and commerce, and excavation shows that it had a large dock. One of the main sources of the wealth of the Cholas was trade in cotton cloth. They maintained an efficient navy. It's also very, very important. Okay, maintained an efficient navy, because even before the Europeans and all came, Indians had a great navy, and even they used to conquer Sri Lanka or Southeast Asia and all. Okay, Cholas were excellent in naval expedition. So they traveled to the mouth of Ganga, Airavati, Malaya archipelago, everywhere. Okay, across wherever sea water is there, they are telling all the places. Under Karikala's successor, the Chola power rapidly declined. Okay, their capital Kaveri Pattanam was overwhelmed and destroyed. Their two neighboring powers, the Cheras and the Pandyas, extended at the cost of the Cholas. Okay, so Cholas were the most powerful ones, and so when they are in power, the others also were in power. Okay, that's what they're telling. What remained of the Chola power was almost wiped out of the attacks of the Pallavas from the north. Okay, so Pallavas is the one who came down to the south and attacked the Cholas, and then that is how these three in ancient history will get over. Okay, these kingdoms. What remained of the Chola power was, okay, it's wiped out. From the 4th to the 9th century AD, the Cholas played only a marginal part in South Indian history. Okay, so that is what in medieval history, again from the 10th century AD, we will again continue in the medieval textbook. Okay, there we'll learn about Rajaraja Chola, Rajendra Chola, and also don't confuse this and that. Okay, this is ancient Chola, Chera, Pandya in the up to the 4th century AD. After that, now in 10th century AD in medieval India, they will again reappear. So you should know such basic fact. Most of the aspirants I know, they don't even know that thing. They are just by hearting Chola, Chera, Pandya of the south. Okay, they should know the timeline and how these kingdom came up and went down. Okay, in Tamil Nadu textbook also it is mentioned in detail. The Chera or the Kerala country was situated to the west and north of the land of the Pandyas. It included the north tip of the land between the sea and mountains covered portions of the modern Kerala state. You know the Western Ghats and all is there, so that place, okay, Kerala state. In the early centuries of the Christian era, the Chera country was as important as the country of the Cholas and the Pandyas. Okay, it owed its importance to the trade with Romans. So if you see, all these three kingdoms had great trade relations with Roman Empire. Okay, now this is again important. The Romans set up 2 regiments at Muziris, identical with Kragnor in the Chera country, to protect their interest. Okay, these port cities are also important. Urayur was there here, Madurai was there in Pandya. Now here we are seeing something called Muziris. Okay, this is in news also. In last year it was in news. Try to find out the port development project of Kerala. Okay, it was in news. It is said that they also built their temple for Augustus. Okay, so that becomes more and more important. Temple for Augustus in Chera kingdom. The most important event in the political history of the Cheras was their fight against Cholas about AD 150. Although the Cheras killed the father of the Chola king Karikala, the Chera king also lost his life. Okay, so there were conflict. The father of Karikala was killed, but the Chera king also lost his life. Later, the 2 kingdoms temporarily came to terms and concluded a matrimonial alliance. This is what most of the kingdoms in the north also do. They will fight, then they will do matrimonial alliance. Okay. So the Chera king next allied himself with the Pandya rulers against the Cholas, but the Cholas defeated the allies, and it is said that since the Chera king was wounded in the back, he committed suicide out of shame. Okay, so such kind of stories, legendary stories are there. According to Chera poets, the greatest king was Senguttuvan. Okay, Senguttuvan was a Chera king, the Red Chera. He routed his rivals and established his cousin securely on the throne. It is said that he invaded. It's actually ivory. Okay, this picture, ivory, carved ivory. The north and crossed the Ganga. Okay, they are telling about stories, exaggerated stories like the Chera, Senguttuvan king went up to the north and crossed the Ganga river and all, but it's exaggerated. After the 2nd century AD, the Chera power declined and we have nothing of its history again till the 8th century AD. So again same thing, in medieval India it will reappear. The main interest of the political history of these 3 kingdoms lies in the continuous wars they fought with one another and also with Sri Lanka. Okay, they were fighting with each other and also to capture Sri Lanka. We saw a king named Karikala who ruled 50 years, not Karikala, it was Erala king ruled for 50 years in Sri Lanka in Chola dynasty. Although the wars weakened these states, they very much profited from the natural resource and foreign trade. These kingdoms were immensely rich. Okay, we know India was very rich. That is why even Britishers will come later. Okay, they grew spices, especially pepper, which was in great demand in the western world. Their elephants supplied ivory, which was highly valued in the west. The sea yielded pearls, and their mines produced precious stones, and both these were sent to the west in good quantity. So pearls are there, minerals are there, spices are there, all these things are there, and it attracted the people in the west. Okay, in good quantity. In addition to this, they also produce muslin and silk. Okay, even in Shashi Tharoor's speech, if you see, he'll tell all these stories like India was like this, India was like that, and all. We hear of cotton cloth as thin as the slaw of a snake. Okay, snake skin kind of, that much thin the cotton cloth will be. The early Tamil poems also mention the weaving of complex patterns in silk. Urayur. Okay, Urayur is the port city of Chola, was noted for its cotton trade. From early times, the Tamils traded with the Greek or Hellenistic kingdom. Okay, Hellenistic, it's actually Greek only, of Egypt and Arabia on the one side, and the Malaya archipelago, and from there with the China. If you see, there is not even a single place left. Okay, in the east also it's there, in the west also it's there, in the north China is there. With everyone they traded. Okay, so that much rich was the kingdom. As a result of trade, the words for rice, ginger, cinnamon, and several other articles in Greek language were derived from Tamil language. So if you see, Tamil language was an ancient language. You know, it's one of the classical languages of India. So many Greek words were derived from Tamil language also. Okay, it's not like only we borrowed from them; they also borrowed from us. When Egypt became a Roman province and when the monsoons were discovered, okay, monsoons were discovered when near the 1st century AD, this trade received greater impetus. Okay, now like the sail is there, the ship can come faster, so that is why monsoons were discovered, and so trade again improved. With the later, they are telling after a few centuries, 2.5 centuries something, the trade will decline, and that is how kingdoms also will decline. Okay, the purse and the sword, trade, foreign and internal constituted a very important source of royal revenue. Okay, any kind of trade, lot of revenue was there. We know how the custom officials functioned in the Puhar. Okay, Puhar we saw, Puhar is Kaveri Patnam. Okay, try to remember, Karikala created the city. Transit duties were also collected from merchants who moved with their goods from place to place. For safety of the merchants and prevention of smuggling, soldiers maintained constant vigil on the road. So it's like because a lot of trade is there, obviously some problem will come. So they had this security measures also, smuggling and whatever happens, they had this constant alertness. Okay, vigil means alertness. Spoils of war further added to royal income, but the real foundation of war and polity lay in the regular income from agriculture. The share of the agricultural produce claimed and collected by the king is not specified. Okay, there is no measurement like 1/6 was collected, 50% was collected. There is no measurement given here, but there was some tax collection. The tip of the peninsula and the adjacent regions were extremely fertile. The land produced paddy, ragi, and sugarcane. It is said of the Kaveri Delta that the space in which an elephant could lie down produced enough to feed 7 persons. So they are telling about that huge richness in their agriculture, collection of food items and storing and all these things. Okay, and Tamil region also produced grain, fruit, pepper, turmeric. It seems that the king had a share in all his produce. Apparently, out of the taxes collected from the peasantry, the state maintained a regular army. It consisted of chariots drawn by oxen, of elephants, cavalry, and infantry. Elephants played an important role in war. Horses were important. With this you should know. Okay, Pandyans, you know, pearls they used to give to these people, Romans, and Romans will give them back horses. Okay, horses were imported into India. The nobles and princes or captains of army rode on the elephants, and the commanders drove on chariots. The foot soldiers and horsemen were leather sandals. So you should know, just the fact is like leather was used. Okay, leather was there, cotton, silk, muslin, all these kinds were used at that time. Rise of social class. Taxes enabled the king not only to maintain a professional army but also to pay the poets and priests. So there were a lot of people under the patronage of the king. Okay, and mostly they were Brahmins. So they were given huge amount of money and wealth. Okay, we'll see here. The Brahmanas first appear in the Tamil land in the Sangam age. An ideal king was one who never hurt the Brahmin. So that is their ideology. Okay, a king is considered ideal only if you don't hurt a Brahmin. Many Brahmins functioned as poets, and in this role they were generously rewarded by the king. Okay, Karikala king is again back here now. Karikala, he gave one poet 16 lakh, it is 16 lakh gold pieces. Okay, besides gold, the poets also received cash, land, chariots, horses, even elephants. Tamil Brahmins took meat and wine. Okay, so if you see, Tamil Brahmins are eating meat and wine. Okay, so these are strange facts which UPSC will pick up. They got all these kind of gifts. Then the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas do not appear as a regular Varna in Sangam text. Okay, so in Sangam textbook, Kshatriyas and Varna, there is no clear-cut demarcation like this is falling under the Varna system. But they were mentioning about war and warriors and all, but the Kshatriya and Vaishya class was not properly mentioned. Okay. Captains of the army were invested with the title of ND. Okay, again a term. ND means captain of the army. Okay, now civil and military officers were held under both the Cholas and Pandyas by the Vallalas or rich peasants. Okay, the ruling caste was called the Arasar, and its members had marriage relations with the Vallalas, who constituted the fourth caste. So there they did not have this Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya and all. They had their own kind of classification. So that is what they are mentioning here. Arasar is the ruling class, Vallalas is the merchant class, and then we saw this NAD. NAD is the captain of the army. Okay, same kind of, instead of Kshatriya, Vaishya and all, they are using different terms. That's all. NAD is captain, Vallala is merchants, Arasar is the ruling class. Okay, try to remember all these three names. The rich did not plow the land themselves but employed laborers. Okay, so rich will not go themselves. Okay, this Vallalas and all, rich peasants, they will hire laborers. Agricultural operations were generally carried by the women of the lower class. So one more name, Kadaisiyar. Okay, Kadaisiyar means in Tamil it is like the lowermost section, that is Kadaisiyar. Okay, the one which comes at the last, that is Kadaisiyar, whose status appears to have differed little from that of the slave. Okay, it's not like slave, but it is like little bit more than that. That is Kadaisiyar. So Kadaisiyar, Arasar, Vallalas and NAD. Please remember these four names. It's very easy if you read it 2-3 times. Okay. Besides agricultural laborer, we come across low-class artisans. To this category belong the Pulayans. Okay. Now Pulayans are artisans who made rope charpais and used animal skins as mat. Okay. Again one term. Pulayans are the artisans. Okay. Pulayans, Pulayans, Kadaisiyar, Arasar, Vallalas, NAD. Okay. I am repeating multiple times so that it gets registered in your mind. Then again this hand to mouth, these people are all telling about their agriculture, not clear whether their rights and religions were used. Okay, so everything is like kind of profession if you see. It's not like based on religion or caste or anything. Okay, it's telling maintain social inequalities, basic things only. Occupation wise they had this different classes. Beginning of Brahmanism. The state and the society that were formed in the Tamil land in the early centuries of the Christian era developed under the impact of Brahmanism. The state and the society that were formed in the Tamil land in the early centuries of the Christian era developed under the impact of Brahmanism. So Brahmanism is rising. But the Brahmanical influence were confined to a small part of the Tamil territory and only to the upper levels of Tamil society in that area. Okay. It was applying only to the upper level. The kings performed the Vedic sacrifices. The Brahmanas, who were the followers of the Vedas, carried on disputations, possibly with the Jainas and Buddhists. But the chief local god worshipped by the people was Murugan. Okay, the gods which they worship is now Murugan, which is also Subramanya. The worship of Vishnu is also mentioned, although it may have been a larger, it may have a later practice. Okay, later we'll learn when the Bhakti movement and all will come in medieval times. The Vishnu, Shiva, Nayanas, Alvars, that things will come. But now it is like a little bit mention of Vishnu, and then most important is Muruga or Subramanya. Okay, the megalithic practice of providing for the dead continued. People offered paddy to the dead. Cremation was introduced, but inhumation followed in the megalithic phase was not abandoned. So it's like continuing all the things which are already there. Tamil language and Sangam literature. All that has been stated above about the life of the Tamils in the beginning of the historical period is based on the Sangam literature. As shown earlier, the Sangam was a college or an assembly of Tamil poets held probably under royal patronage, but we do not know the number of Sangams or the period for which they were held. It is stated that in a Tamil commentary of the middle of the 8th century AD that 3 Sangams lasted for 9,990 years. Okay, it's mentioned in some Tamil commentary. Okay, these many years it lasted, the 3 Sangams. They were attended by these many poets and had these many kings and all, not important. So it's all wild exaggeration they are telling. Royal patronage under the Madurai. Madurai is related to Pandya Kingdom. Okay, the available Sangam literature which was produced by these assemblies was compiled in 300 AD. The early, middle and the last strata of the text are yet to be clarified and clearly identified, but they contain descriptions which tally with what we know from the Greek and Roman accounts and from the archaeology. There is no doubt that the art of writing was known to the Tamils before the beginning of the Christian era. More than 75 short inscriptions in the Brahmi script have been found in natural caves, mainly in the Madurai region. Okay, inscriptions in the natural caves in Madurai region. They provide the specimen of the earliest form of Tamil mixed with Prakrit words. They provide the specimen of the earliest form of Tamil mixed with Prakrit words. They belong to the 2nd, 1st century BCs when the Jaina and the Buddhist missionaries appeared in this area. Inscribed potsherds during recent excavations have been found at several places, and they provide examples of Tamil in the beginning of the Christian era. It's not, I don't think we got any point from here. Okay, this whole thing, there's no much point. It is therefore no wonder that considerable Sangam literature was produced in the early centuries of the Christian era, although it was finally compiled by AD 600. Some questions are there, but just pause it and see. I'll show you MCQs anyway. Which of the following South Indian kings are matched correctly? Okay, UPSC's typical kind of question. Chola, Sengutuvan, Pandyas, Yavanika, Cheras, Karikala. Tell me in answer which is the correct answer. Okay, this is a very interesting question. I made it up myself, so please try to answer this. It's a UPSC standard question. In which of the following South Indian kingdoms did the Roman establish a temple for Augustus? Again, a typical UPSC question picked up directly from the standard textbook. So try to answer these 2 questions in comment section. Third question, which South Indian kingdom has been famous for importing horses from Roman via sea in exchange of pearls? I have repeatedly told this 2-3 times in this lecture, so try to answer which is that kingdom. Okay, so this is the standard of the questions. 300 questions are there, I think, for ancient history. Please try to enroll to our test series and just ensure your success in prelims 2018, because this much quality lectures we are giving for free. So please make use of the MCQs also. Okay, let's crack 2018 with like easily. Okay, not like very tough or something. We can easily crack it because we are doing all the standard textbooks. So please buy them and ensure your success. Okay, so I'll come up with the next video soon. Till then, enjoy your learning. Thank you and have a nice day.